Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and we are back this week. It is it's the week before Thanksgiving, everybody. Can you believe this? I can't believe this. Thanksgiving is next week. That is insane. This year has flown by. Speaking of flown, happy to report, Toilet Teal is back in Los Angeles. She landed from her brief sojourn in St. Louis. She landed back here, and life is once again normalized. And we couldn't be happier about it. Although the toilets in St. Louis now are going to be the bathrooms are going to be a little dingier. Now that the Cobra cleaning lady is not there to take care of business. But I hope you guys all enjoyed a good solid 2 months of just pure, raw Cobra cleaning power. Because that's what Toilet Teal brings to the table. So welcome back to Los Angeles, Toilet Teal. And today, listeners, if you don't know who we're talking about my wife. And this is the Joe and Joe podcast, where our guests often get nicknames such as Toilet Teal, the Cobra cleaning lady. I am Old Style, the guy with a deep dish sausage shield and a heavy machine gun. And, when we get back to getting guests again, which I know I keep promising, we'll get back to we'll get back to getting file names again. We will. I promise you. This is coming. But until then, we're dealing with G.I. Joe 105, and today is awesome. It's a good issue. It's solid. I love the art. I love the cover. Some good action. Some good new toys being used in there. That's really neat. So before we start digging in, first we're going to hear from our sponsors, the Movies and a Meal podcast. Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts. And you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie. It's about not two movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show. So while you're subscribing to the Movies and a Meal podcast and you're on the internet, why don't you click on over to our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Joe and Joe Pod and leave us a note. Say hello. Give us a like. If you want to review us on your favorite podcast catcher, I'd appreciate that. Or if you want to send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Or if you're really inclined, you're like, man, I really needed to hear all the Joe and Joe Illustrated. Going back to issue number 1, you can sign up and become a patron over at patreon.com/joeandjoepod. And that is where you can access all of the episodes of everything we've done. Everything's over there, all archived and ready to rock and roll. We've had a couple new Patreons join up lately, and I appreciate you guys so very much. Welcome aboard. Hope you enjoyed the experience, to quote the X-Men. Speaking of X-Men.
You were saying?
I was saying. And that's our segment where we like to look at comic books that were on the shelf the same month as the G.I. Joe issue we're talking about. And in this case, we're talking about G.I. Joe number 105. And so that was cover dated of October 1990. So you remember, that's the off sale date. It technically came out in June of 1990 by the calendar. So these other books were on the shelf at the same time. if you've seen the Eternals movie, then you know you love Circe, and she is having a moment over in Avengers. She's one of the main Avengers in the Avengers book. In Avengers 325, 324, Circe's all over it. So if you enjoyed her in the Eternals movie, seek out this era of Avengers, and you're going to get a lot of good Circe stuff. Her mingling with the rest of the MCU. Obviously, if you don't just go straight to old Eternals issues, or new Eternals issues, really. But yeah, Circe as an Avenger worked pretty well. Captain America is fighting the scourge of drugs in his Streets of Poison crossover. This time he's putting his fist, socking Crossbones right in the jaw on 378. Streets of Poison was their big anti-drug crossover. I believe very shortly we're coming into Capwolf. I don't think we've hit Capwolf yet, but like they did some of these extended like mini arcs in Cap during this era, and Streets of Poison was one of the big ones. And you know, it's Captain America against the drug fight. Who can't get behind that? What else do we got here? Darkman #1. Darkman is that Sam Raimi movie that's underappreciated. It essentially was a dark superhero, but a completely new IP kind of thing. It's a lot. The first movie's a lot of fun. It's very Sam Raimi. I remember when I first saw it, I didn't understand Sam Raimi's vibe, so it was a little lost on me as a kid. But as an adult, it really, really works. And I've read a lot of these Darkman comics, and they're fun. They work as like horror comics, and horror comics are always a little hard to pull off. Fred Hembeck sells the Marvel Universe. Always love a good Fred Hembeck comic book. He roasted the Marvel Universe. He roasted the FF. He destroyed the DC Universe, and now he's selling the Marvel Universe. I actually don't think I have this issue. This does not look very familiar to me, but I always welcome Fool Killer #1. Fool Killer had previously appeared in Defenders, and they finally gave... Fool Killer's a weird character. Let me see if this series was written by Gerber. Yeah, it was written by Gerber. Steve Gerber, who created Howard the Duck. Fool Killer, and he probably created Fool Killer too, I'm assuming. He literally, like, he would... exactly what his name says. He would kill people that he thought were fools socially. So it's not necessarily like the Punisher, where you broke a crime, or you're doing some kind of crime, whether it's crime against the U.S. law or just crime against humanity. Fool Killer was like, I think you're a fool, therefore I'm going to kill you. And he dressed like the Dread Pirate Roberts, which made it just made it all the more fantastic. So he's been rebooted a little bit. They did a hard edge version of him a few years ago. I think he gave him like more of a tattooed look and less of a Dread Pirate Roberts look. Fool Killer's worth kind of checking out. Of course, we've got G.I. Joe 105. Ghost Rider teams up with the Punisher in Ghost Rider #6. That's exciting. Incredible Hulk 374. It looks like the Hulk's about to square off with the Thing, but if memory serves, that big rocky thing-like arm actually belongs to the Super Skrull. And if you look closely at the shadow, I believe that is... yeah, the shadow tells it, because he's got the big Skrull ears. But that's always great. I love when when a Super Skrull appearance is teased by one of the other members of the FF that he emulates. If you guys remember who the Super Skrull was, he was that the shape-shifting Skrull who got genetically modified to actually reproduce powers. Skrulls can only reproduce looks and accents and scents, like physical things they can't like flame on. But the Skrull Empire did experiments on the Super Skrull, and so he could emulate all 4 of the Fantastic Four's powers. So he could stretch, he could become rocky like the Thing, he could flame on like Johnny, and then he could become invisible like Sue Storm. So we'd always have like this big rocky arm, and then one arm would be on fire, and then his body would be... so it's always cool. And I really do love the trope that just one part of his body shows, and you think, oh, it's a Human Torch crossover, and then no, it's the Super Skrull. They do that a lot, and I enjoy it every time I see it. We saw the Monkees the other night in concert out here in Los Angeles at their final show. I don't know if it's their final show forever. They said it was their final show in Los Angeles forever. I heard rumors they're doing some kind of rumors. Our friend Matt Blossman said they were. Hot rumor mill, hot monkey rumor mill. They're doing like they might be doing a cruise with like the Beach Boys or something. But as far as shows, this was at the Greek. It was a full-on performance. It was fabulous. I'm a big, long-time Monkees guy from literally earliest group that I can remember seeing because they were on TV, and absolutely loving them. They were absolutely real to me, damn it. And I enjoy them so much all throughout the years. I saw them for the first time in 1986 at their 20th reunion tour when I was 11 years old, and or actually probably at the time, probably only 10, and I had to go, and it was everything to me. And now 35 years later, I got to see him at their last show, so it was really, really cool. It was great. Joined there with our friend Matt Plossman, and Toilet Teal was there, and we just absolutely loved it. New Mutants 94. This is more Liefeld action, but he's got Wolverine in the mix with Cable. This is probably the first time Wolverine and Cable crossed over in the comics, I imagine. Let's see, a lot of Punisher. Man, there's a lot of Punisher that much. He actually had a graphic novel, Kingdom Gone, Warzone. He had War Journal, his regular Punisher volume. He was bi-monthly, and he had the Punisher magazine. RoboCop, number 8 of his ongoing series. It's an underrated series, guys. I've read it recently. I put together a collection, and I really enjoyed it. It's really underrated. They have some good subplots going through like the first, I think it's like 18 issues or 20 issues. And if I recall, you had really good subplots working for like the first 13 or so. Then it seemed like they heard that the axe was going to fall. So they used up like inventory issues, and it just came like one-shots, Adventures of RoboCop towards the end. But the first like 12 or 13 issues are really kind of good, and they're doing this RoboCop world building, and it's really solid. I dig it. Spider-Man number 3. This is the Todd McFarlane stuff. This is Spider-Man and Kraven's dead, but Calypso is reviving his zombie corpse and stuff. And the reason I mentioned this one, I've said before, look out for your Calypso back issues, because she's supposed to be, if they do a Kraven movie, she's supposed to be a big part of that. This cover, I have hated for as long as I can remember. I know he's got his, like, the logo's on upside down, so it's, it's supposed to get you in a topsy-turvy whirl, and that's fun. But setting aside the logo hijinks, I don't understand what's happening in the background. Nothing about this cover is appealing to me in any aesthetic sense. I don't like it. I don't understand it. I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand what McFarlane was going for with it. It just, I honestly don't get it. I don't get it. I don't like it. Who am I to tell you what works or what doesn't work? But in the history of McFarlane covers, this might be one of the worst ones I've ever seen him do. And I say that saying that he does great. He's done great iconic covers, so that's actually meant as a compliment. Like, this is just he was going for something. I don't know what, and he just whiffed on it. For me, I never enjoyed this cover. And look at this, Transformers UK. So the Transformers UK series, we have a G.I. Joe spotting, guys. So on the cover, they're talking about Action Force. So we've got Action Force showing up in the Transformers UK issues. Do you guys have these? Do you guys collect these? Are these in your collection? They're not in mine. They should be. Maybe we'll get on that. Uncanny X-Men 269. This was a great issue. We talked about last month. We talked about that Captain America and Black Widow and Wolverine World War II story. I forgot that Jim Lee followed it up with this one, 269, which was Carol Danvers and Rogue going at it, and Rogue finally losing her Carol Danvers persona. Which was long. I mean, that was baked into her character since they introduced her, so it's 1990. So for like 6 years, I mean, since she'd been around since like 83, maybe 84. So 6-7 years. Whenever Avengers Annual 10 was, she sucked away Ms. Marvel / Carol Danvers memories, and Carol became binary, and so now those memories are finally getting rid of, which was a long time coming, and that's awesome. And this cover is really great. So this is a fun book. So Avengers Uncanny X-Men 269, and strangely enough, funnily enough, last week we talked about that issue, the World War II one. someone came in with that to sell to Golden Apple this week. So we'll see. Will someone show up with 269 next week to sell? If so, the following week I'm going to talk about Hulk 181 exclusively on this segment.
You were saying?
Now, DC Comics. What do we got here? We got a lot of meh is what we got. I've scanned it. There's some solid books in there I could talk about, like Suicide Squad's always great. I do believe that his Javelin on the cover, Javelin from the latest Suicide Squad movie. If you guys saw it, you'll know who I'm talking about. The Legion of Superheroes 12. This was kind of like the team was finally all back together. I love this cover because it's just a great new logo. It's very Giffen-y. There's a lot of grime and dirt on the metal. I enjoy that. It's the last issue of the Huntress series, Huntress number 19. It's got Batman in. Huntress is a series they actually, even though when she was created, she was Batman's daughter, and then they did Crisis, so she wasn't, so she's just now Helena Bertinelli. They avoided having Batman in her solo series because they wanted her to be a little more grounded, a little more real world crime. They finally relented towards the end and did some Batman crossover, which Batman's in this issue, but it's the final issue, Huntress 19. Yeah, Hawkworld's chugging along in issue 5. Green Lantern's on issue 5. There's kind of a lot of meh. Here's the one thing that's not meh this month, though. All the Superman books, actually, rather. If there's one name synonymous with Superman from, we'll say, it's before this, but we'll just say from the very late 60s through the early 80s. So an entire decade of Superman. As far as comic books go, it's Kurt Swan. Kurt Swan was a mainstay artist. I know a lot of you old heads already know this, so I'm not, I'm preaching to the choir there. But if you're not familiar for some reason with Kurt Swan's Superman, just Google it. In fact, if you just Google Superman, and I would say maybe classic Superman at this point in time, it's been long enough. If you Google Superman, you'll probably get a whole bunch of stuff that's not him. But for the longest time, the Superman look that was used for products and merchandising and stuff, it was either Jose Luis Garcia Lopez or it was Kurt Swan. Like, I had Kurt Swan Superman bed sheets when I was growing up. Kurt Swan's Superman is wonderful and real and grounded, and he's a person. Like, his Superman is just it's like this uncanny combination between George Reeves and Christopher Reeve before Christopher Reeve even became Superman, in the movies. His Superman is just perfect. He of course illustrated the final story, the Alan Moore, whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow. He then was taken off the book because they were rebooting it and giving it to Byrne and stuff. They did a book called, I think he did the Earth Stealers. Well, he did, yeah, I believe it was Earth Stealers, the one where he fought it was kind of like a Muhammad Ali kind of homage, where he fought the alien in space for the rights to own Earth or something like that. But he pretty much was off Superman, the regular books, since Byrne took over in 85. So this was about 5 years later, we'll say 4 years. And they brought him back for this 3-issue arc, and it's just great. It's this character Sinbad, who's like a young kid with powers, and it's fine, but it's very representative of the kind of stories that Kurt Swan did in the 70s. These one-off stories where Superman's always going to be Superman, but something fantastic happens to a pedestrian in Metropolis. Someone gets a power, magical happens to one character, and then they have to cross paths with Superman, and then Superman has to. So it's like Superman's the constant, and the change here is the adversary, so to speak. And this was great, and they brought Kurt Swan back for it, and it's a fun run. It's 3 issues, so it spans action, adventures, and regular Superman. So I just always celebrate Kurt Swan whenever you can.
You were saying?
I was saying. So now we're going to move to the movies. What was in the theaters? Now, so this is June of 1990. So, we're talking cover date, October. So in the theaters, it was on the shelf in June of 1990. Frankenhooker. On June 1st, Frankenhooker opens the same day as Total Recall. I saw one of them. I don't think I've seen No, you know what? I do think I've seen Frankenhooker. I think it was on Shudder recently. I don't remember it. I mean, it's a bad movie. It's a B movie, but it's a fun B movie if I recall. But of course, speaking of Recall, Total Recall's amazing with Schwarzenegger, directed by Paul Verhoeven. What else is there? Total Recall's awesome. It's amazing. If you guys, the remake is just a shade. It's nothing compared to the original. Original's just so fun and so subversive and so amazing. Michael Ironside shows up. Ronnie Cox. Sharon Stone plays his Earth wife. It was quote unquote wife. It's great. I love Total Recall. I love everything about Total Recall. Another 48 Hours opened a week later, and this was the big follow up to the Walter Hill movie, Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte. I dig 48 Hours. I don't dig another 48 Hours. It didn't. I mean, it was that real and really feels like just a cash grab, as cash grabs go. But Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte are still great, and Walter Hill still directs the hell out of a movie. But it just seemed more of the same. Now, this was huge. 1 year earlier, you had Batman 89, and that changed the game. And Warren Beatty, my understanding is that the push to get Batman made, they didn't shoot this in a year. Warren Beatty had been trying to get Dick Tracy made for like a decade. I mean it. He had the rights to Dick Tracy for a long time. And my understanding was that when the studios kind of like greenlit Batman, and the push was, okay, Batman's going to be a big thing, so it's going back like 2 years or so, they finally greenlit Warren Beatty's Dick Tracy. It is an awesome movie. It's a little slow, it's a little, doesn't hold my action attention as much as it should, but as much as something like Batman does. But all the accomplishments in Dick Tracy, just the look, the commitment to it, the styling, everything about the world they build is completely and quintessentially Dick Tracy. And it's such an achievement for that, and it's so good. And, there's a million, obviously Warren Beatty's making it, so everyone comes out of the woodwork, Madonna, Al Pacino, Glenn Headley, that kid Charlie Korsmo was great in it, the little kid actor. Who else? Charles Durning's in it. Dick Van Dyke's in it. Kathy Bates shows up. Dustin Hoffman, William Forsythe, James Tolkien, Mandy Patinkin, Paul Sorvino, James Caan, Catherine O'Hara. This is Mary Warnoff's in this. I forgot about that. There's just so many good, and John Schuck is in this movie. There's so many big names, and not just names though, but faces. You see people that those people that I guess worked with Beatty over the years, B actors, just regular character actors who were just like, yeah, get him in this. It's so much fun, and it's so stylized. And between that and Batman, these two movies set the tone for what comic book adaptations would be for the next 10 years, quite frankly, until you get to Blade / X-Men / Spider-Man. Those three broke the mold. But Batman and Dick Tracy really, really set it for the next 10 years, as far as what would be considered a comic book movie. So it's underappreciated. It really is. Same day though, this is wild because that's Dick Tracy was huge. There's a huge push for it. Gremlins 2, the new batch, which is also amazing. This was Gremlins really as a this is a Looney Tunes cartoon, obviously they both were, but this really took any seriousness away from it and just Die Hard with Gremlins, it's great. A lot of people prefer this one. I've always liked the first one because it's a little more real. And again, this is more, cartoony, but that takes nothing away from this part 2. I think it's just absolutely great. John Glover is awesome. I think in this as the Daniel Clamp, the Trump, billionaire who runs the building that the Gremlins get loose in. It's just so much fun. Absolutely so much fun. June 22nd. Are you kidding me? RoboCop 2. What? This is the one written by Frank Miller, guys. And actually featuring, of course, the great Peter Weller. Nancy Allen, of course, is back. This one is really, there's the bones of a really, really good movie. If you guys read the Boom comic book, Frank Miller's RoboCop. They adapted what Miller's screenplay would have been, and it's a better movie. You know, I don't know if it would have been easier to watch, or years. I don't know if it would have turned into a better movie, but it just had a harder edge to it. There's the bones of a really, really good RoboCop movie in RoboCop 2. I like it a lot. I've rewatched it recently, and I remember not really loving it when I was a kid, but recently rewatch it and you see what they're doing and what they're going for. I think the biggest problem is they don't give Robo any forward progress. He just kind of steps back from where he went in the first movie. Now, I don't know what you're going to do with him. I don't know the answer to that. You know, the first movie was all about him regaining his humanity, and now this one is about just not torturing his ex-wife. So that's a problem, and that's just, I think that's just endemic to it. Like, you just need to either have it be Robo or not. But the stuff with Ed 209 is great. The stuff with the little kid being the drug kingpin is fabulous. It's great. RoboCop 2 is a whole lot of fun. I think deserves to be reviewed. It's not perfect, certainly not a perfect movie, but I think it holds up. Jumping ahead to June 27th, Days of Thunder. That movie I've seen a million times, directed by Tony Scott, Tom Cruise, Robert Duvall, Randy Quaid, Nicole Kidman, Carrie Elways, Michael Rooker. Of course, it's, you know, Tom Cruise is the NASCAR driver. Rubbin is racing, and it's great. Days of Thunder is great. It's Top Gun on wheels, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you round out the month with Ghost Dad with Bill Cosby. Forgettable film by someone we should all try to forget. Try to do our best to forget. And there you go.
You were saying?
And that's it for June 1990. And now,
Mass is ready.
we are going to dig into G.I. Joe number 105. What a great cover. I enjoy the fact that they still have Cobra Commander in the upper corner box with his fist raised to remind us that he's looming over us all. I actually really do like that a lot, even though he's not in this issue. You know, he wasn't in last issue, but he's there for it. That's great. Production-wise, this cover does, for some reason, there's something about these Lee Weeks covers. They just don't feel like they were at the right size. It looks like it's too blown up, like it's larger than it was originally meant to be. Having said that, it's great. I really like it. I think it looks awesome. Roadblock looks just as menacing as ever. Dinah looks awesome. It's Roadblock on top of the what is it? The Raider, and with Wild Bill and what's his name, Hot Seat on the inside, and then the two more of the October Guard behind him. So it's a really good looking cover. I like everything about it. I love the text on the cover, which, kind of gives you a little tease for what's inside. Get a little hint. They want to remind us, yes, Snake Eyes is in this book. So that's great. So thumbs up for the cover. There is just something about it. It just feels like everything, all the lines are a little too thick. I don't know why.
Yo, Joe!
Hidden Aces. Script by L.K. Hama. Pencils, M.D. Bright. That's funny. I imagine they're doing all this because of Mark Bright was going by M.D. Bright at the time. Inks by R. Emberlin and Romeo Tang Hall. I like his Romeo's inks. I've always enjoyed them. I believe he also did Mark's stuff for Green Lantern. I think he did as well. And he's done a ton of stuff. I've seen his name on a ton of books I loved. Coloring by R.L. Parker. Editor R. Sharon. Editor-in-Chief B.E. Chase. Editors B.E. Chase. Editor-in-Chief T. DeFalco. That's funny. So Hidden Aces. So we opened, you guys remember last issue, we closed with the Joes who were in Sierra Gordo on the run with the Tucaros, the natives, the native tribe that lived there that were helping the Joes escape Darklon and his forces. They kind of came over a ridge. They were like, we're going to get safety in this, over this ridge with this, it's a jungle. It's a tropical jungle that we're going to be able to hide into. And when they got to the top, it had all been deforested. It had all been clear cut by Darklon, and they were just absolutely harvested. So the whole rainforest is gone, and the Joes were kind of screwed because now they have no cover, and they They only had one slow-moving vehicle to transport. There were like 12 of them. So they were calling for help, and we get this real glory shot of the G.I. Joe Locust. And I like it. Now, I've read this comic before, and I've seen this comic before, and I don't remember this vehicle. I had to look it up because at the time, for me personally, I was done collecting probably a year earlier. I really like this vehicle. This is kind of fun. This little one-man, one-seater helicopter, kind of a scout copter. It's armed, but it's not heavily armed. And I'm looking it up online right now. And it looks pretty cool. A bomb-dropping assault copter. I kind of like it. Part of what I really dig is the branding across the front of it. Like it says straight up G.I. Joe, which, G.I. Joe's been poor with branding over the time. So I like the fact that they have that seated front and center. It's pretty great. And of course, I love that Wild Bill's in it. This is one of those toys that was, it's too small to come with a pilot because, lower price point for you. So any of your Joes, kind of like the Skyhawk, it was for everyone to fly. You didn't need a pilot per se. But I love that they include Wild Bill flying this thing. It looks really great. And what's happening is it's overseeing the field of action. So for us, it's a giant splash page, and it's doing twofold. It's introducing the toy, which, again, that's what it's what we're here to do. We're here to sell toys, right? So it's telling the reader, hey, look at this cool new toy. It should be on the shelf soon. It's a very nice splash page of it. And then behind it, we see the layout of the rest of the story. We see this giant field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's at least 7 Cobra vehicles chasing the Joes who are up front. The Joes and the Crimson, pardon me, October Guard, and the 2 cars up front. So it kind of sets the stage for us in one quick little picture.
Yo, Joe!
And here you go. We see Wild Bill kind of, playing the role of filling us in of what's happening. He's there to pull the cupcakes out of the fire, and I really like that Flint's like, we're not getting all in that thing, and Wild Bill says, no, we got some ground support coming, but he's buzzing over them, and he is gonna do what the toy says, drop some bombs from overhead, and that's exactly what the toy does. No, he says he's gonna pop some black smoke, which in this case is gonna be burning oil from the exploded Cobra vehicles, and he does just that, although he is himself taking some fire. And I've said it before, I love me a Mark Bright explosion, and we get a lot of them in this issue. I think they look great.
Yo, Joe!
So we get a close-up on Darklon, and he's kind of giving his orders to his troops, basically saying, hey, don't worry about, because it's like the Locust, it's like a bug, like a locust, like it's fast and it's zipping in and out. So instead of trying to hit it, he's basically saying just put up a wall of lead and let it fly into it, which Wild Bill's too smart for that. And what's really great here is they're demonstrating the toy capabilities, like the playetic nature of it, like how fast should you do it? Like, and in this case, it can bob and weave and duck and stuff. So they're not going to catch him with that. But while he is flying away, he does catch a little bit of heat from one of the Cobra vehicles.
Yo, Joe!
And now Wild Bill is basically going to join our refugee Joe. So they have one more person they have to get on the vehicles to rescue, and now it's Wild Bill. But there's a train coming through town, and the train is loaded with a G.I. Joe Raider. And again, another vehicle that is just not in my, it was just not on my radar. And I gotta say, I like this Raider. This Raider vehicle is pretty cool, and they put it to really good use throughout this issue. So this train is approaching all the action, and the Raider's on the train. And Darklon tells his vehicles, which are... These are squadrons of Razorbacks. So they're those kind of stout, weird-looking vehicles that raise up a little bit, and that's going to come into play here throughout this issue, which is kind of neat. So we'll get to that part of it as we go.
Yo, Joe!
The train is getting a lot of action. I love the detail on this train, man. Again, Bright does a great job with giving us a lot of and enough details to make it work. There's a few pages in here that seem a little, I don't want to say rushed, just to be that guy like, oh, it's you're hustling it, because who knows, it may have been a choice. But there's a few sparser pages. I wonder if there was maybe a little bit of time crunch comparatively to last issue, the one where Snake Eyes was going into Barovia. The detail on like Barovia was just gorgeous and great, and this is because this is outside, and so there's not a huge need for massively detailed backgrounds. Maybe that's what I'm saying, but we'll get there. We're not there yet, because right now the detail on this train page is great. The Razorbacks are assaulting this train, and Stretcher shows up, who's the new G.I. Joe medic, and he jumps on to the Raider, which is driven by a hot seat, and the Raider, in a move straight out of Fast and Furious, just comes bounding off the train and into the desert to head towards those Razorbacks that are kind of stationed high up on a dune, and it's heading their way.
Yo, Joe!
Bursting over the sand, all guns blazing. There's a lot of really good toy features in this issue, and that's really what we're getting here. But it's masked well with a lot of character moments, and that's what I like. We're meeting Hot Seat for the first time. I don't think we've met Stretcher before. I like Stretcher. He's kind of cool. He doesn't look like a traditional medic. I think that's why I like him. He looks like someone who would be, he looks a little like Hardball. Like he should have more machine guns and stuff, but then you're like, no, he's a medic, and that's great. I think it's because maybe like the hat or something. I don't know. Anyway, they basically come up under those Razorbacks, and they, in his word, get their attention and make them pull back.
Yo, Joe!
And Darklon, rousing his troops by calling them cowards, press the attack, they have the superiority. And I like that one of them says, well, maybe you should lead the assault, Darklon. Like, if you're so interested in pressing the attack, maybe you go first. Bad day. The snake's very dangerous. Asp's very dangerous. You go first. So this is all buying the Joe's time. They're pulling Wild Bill out of his crashed helicopter, the crashed Locust. And now I really dig that they brought in Stretcher, because we definitely have some wounded people here. So this is great. And this is fabulous. They address the fact that, a lot of these Joe toys, just because they're toys and, how else are you going to do it? The canopies, right? The canopies would get in the way because you had to be able to pop it open to play with it, and then you put your figure in and pop it down. Hot Seat says, watch your face, Stretcher. I'm about to pop the canopy, because Stretcher's sitting on top of it. Addressing in real time, like for the first time, the fact that these canopies are awkward. And we don't want to hurt anyone opening it, because the guy's just about to get out of his car. That's great. And they put Wild Bill in the driver's seat, so it's going to be Wild Bill and Hot Seat driving the Raider. And everyone's kind of climbing aboard. So now they finally have two vehicles, so they're going to be able to make some good time and get out of this former rainforest. Except the Tucaros are not going with. What?
Yo, Joe!
Annabelle, who's the lead Tucaro guy, who's got just the highest of wasted genes. Those are awesome. He says, and this is great, the plain of stumps was once the sacred rainforest of my tribe. Now this was our home. Now it is going to be farmland for useless crops supported by government subsidies. You go home to your climate-controlled shopping malls and parking lots. This is not your fight. This is for the Tucaros to settle. All we are taking from you is one shaped charge, which is going to come into play pretty quick and pretty great. And Lady J's there to remind us all of the stakes that, they're a whole mechanized army, and they're just, and Annabelle finishes, we're just savages with rifles. That may be true, but they're concerned with winning. We are not concerned with winning. We are doing what we have to do, like to save their home. So the Tucaros are awesome, and they're going back to stop Cobra, stop Darklon's forces, and all they need is one shape charge. I like it. Although I will say, execution on the shape charge bit, I feel like missed a landing here. We're going to get to that too.
Yo, Joe!
Meanwhile, in Barovia, the former People's Republic, it's Snake Eyes, the White Clown. What's the other dude's name? Orlovsky, the circus dwarf. And they're driving Snake Eyes in this crazy looking car. It's like half old truck, half circus RV van. It's really a strange looking truck, and I like it. It just feels European, and it feels like something a circus clown would be driving. So they're heading to the gulag where the White Clown's Magda is, if you remember from last issue, and Snake Eyes is there to rescue George Strawhacker. Now, they don't understand. I'm pretty sure they don't understand who George Strawhacker. And is it Strawhacker or is it Straw Whacker? I don't know. Again, one of those things, like keep your raggedy moofs to yourself. I always read it as Strawhacker when I was a kid, but it might be Straw Whacker, Strawhacker. I don't know. Either way, it's the guy who was engaged to his Snake Eyes' twin sister. So it was gonna be his brother-in-law before his sister got killed, and Snake Eyes himself got, he thought he had died on this mission. So he learned that he was alive. Oh, and we're going to take a pause. Sorry, brief interruption from the gardener with his power tools. So if I remember where we were basically saying that more exposition. There's actually a fair amount of exposition in this comic, this actual issue. And this time it's the White Clown reminding us of why Snake Eyes is there and that he's in a trance, etc., and so on and so forth.
Yo, Joe!
Captain Planet, bad guys beware. The Planeteers are coming to your television. Look out. Wasn't either Tom Cruise supposed to be, or he did the voice for Captain Planet in like the first episode, and then it was voiced by someone else throughout it, or does anyone remember that? I feel like Tom Cruise was associated with Captain Planet for a hot second, but it's not like he did the voice for all the episodes of the cartoon. It's because I say that because this animation kind of looks like a Tom Cruise face. Just throwing that out there. So as the White Clown and Snake Eyes, they're driving through the town. This page is a little confusing. They come across some villagers. This page is actually, this is a little bit of the are we doing shortcuts pages. There's just not, the faces are a little loose, we'll say, in the top part. And then there's not a lot of detail in the rest of the page to give us a good sense of where they're at and what they're doing. They pulled up to a roadblock outside of Pivinsk, and it was being they're blocking the roads to the gulag at Pivinsk. They're partisans is what they are. And these partisans are saying, now this is story-wise, this is where I get a little confused. The partisans are saying, turn back, the gulag has been garrisoned by the last holdouts of the security force. They threaten to murder all the remaining prisoners if they're attacked. We all have loved ones in there. So they're saying we don't want any trouble. So that's what's going on. So when Snake Eyes jumps the barricade, I kind of overlooked that when I read this the first time, apologies. When he jumps the barricade, someone yells, shoot him. And the reason is because they don't want their loved ones to get hurt inside. And the White Clown is here for blood, man. It's like, if there's anybody going to be just doing some shooting, it's my guy Snake Eyes. Where Orlovsky is, he's upset because Magda would not like to see this bloodthirsty White Clown that he's become.
Yo, Joe!
Back in Sierra Gordo, the chase continues. And we just get a good use of this Raider vehicle. It just they showcase everything about this toy. Again, another toy not on my radar. It's got all kinds of stuff. Like it's got the missiles that pop up, so like it can go elevate. This guy got like an elevated missile launching platform. It detaches so the front treads can be their own vehicle, and then the cockpit stays with the back treads too. Like there's a lot going on. I think it also swivels, which it does right here in the comic itself, which is great. And because the Cobra thinks that all their guns are facing forward, and then that thing swivels and they shoot him with a little high five in the middle. It's really nice.
Yo, Joe!
So now we're taking a pause. So if you think about it's like a back and forth match. The Joes have a little bit of the upper hand right now. So now narratively we check in on the bad guys, which is, Darkline and these Razorbacks and stuff. And we see that as they're filling Darkline and the Tucaros show up. Remember they said they needed one shaped charge. This is great. So this is a nice payoff to it. There's 3 panels in the middle. It's well done where they throw these Vipers that are on the outside of the Razorback off, and you have someone inside saying, don't worry, they can't get through the canopy unless they have a shaped charge. Now we know that they were left with a shaped charge. The problem is that for me, as a reader, it's Chekhov's shaped charge. I need to see that shaped charge go off. We see them in I'm going to jump forward a couple pages a little bit. Sorry, I don't normally jump. But later on, they show up in one of those Razorbacks, right? And it's the Tucaros driving it. Except that the one that the Tucaros are driving doesn't look like the shaped charge was used, which makes me think the whole shaped charge bit that's just dialogue. Like that was something either they came up with after it was drawn or it just wasn't drawn. Kind of like ADR in movies, where they realize in the scene it's not clear that someone's handing someone a gun, and so when someone's back is to the camera, they have that actor come in and voice over him saying like, hey, hand me the gun so I can take care of myself later. And you never see his lips say it. It's never on, but it's in the audio, so you hear it, so you're like, oh, he was just given a gun. I think that's what this whole shaped charge thing is, because as a comedic bit or as a story narrative bit, visually it does not pay off in this comic book. And that sucks because it's a fun bit. Like it's a great bit. It's a Dirty Harry moment. It's like, did I fire 6 shots or 2? Or six shots or 2? That doesn't make sense. 6 shots or 5. It's the Tucaros saying, all I need is one shaped charge and I can take care of this. But then it doesn't pay off. So that was a little disappointing as we were reading this. However, the chase continues.
Yo, Joe!
A little 2-page Bonks adventure comic book, which is charming. And now we're going to visit New York City. We're going to go to the hospital. And this is more narrative. So the next 2 pages are all exposition. And while I love that the pacing of it is checking in with these other players in this bigger narrative, I don't like that all it is exposition, if that makes sense. So I emotionally, yes, I want to check in on Scarlet and Hawk. But all they're doing is telling us what we already know from last issue. And it doesn't really move anything. I mean, it does give us that this guy, this Chuck Norris looking dude, what's his name? General Thurston, just Thurston Crowther, chairman of the Jugglers. We know he double crossed Storm Shadow, and now he's basically telling that we have him. So I don't even know, is that a double cross, or is he just saying, no, we got him because he strong armed us and you can't strong arm us. But there's not a lot of growth here. It's just more of reminder angst.
Yo, Joe!
Which is also what you get on this page too. So this is a great page, and it's crazy. They're holding these guys hostage in the Statue of Liberty. I don't know why. I thought the Statue of Liberty was for tourism. For real. I thought that's what people did. They walked up to the top of the Statue of Liberty and they looked out at it. Apparently, in G.I. Joe universe, they keep prisoners up there. So the men in black, so to speak, the Jugglers guys, are walking Storm Shadow and Alpine, dressed like Alpine, but it's Stalker and his Snoker. They're walking them up the steps to the Statue of Liberty, which visually is amazing. And I love that for no good reason, they're just being held in the Statue of Liberty. Now, I just love it. Is there a connection to the Statue of Liberty from the J. Joe movie? I have no idea. That part, we were talking about the speculation with RoboCop, with Roadblock being blinded. That, I think, is an absolute direct connection. Is there a connection here with the Statue of Liberty? I don't know. I don't really see a lot of evidence for that. I just think it's wild and crazy that's where we're setting this prison for these two basically Joe members. And I have trouble always considering Storm Shadow a Joe. Having them in prison. Anyway, narratively, though, it's more of them describing and explaining what Snake Eyes is up to back in Barovia, which we've already covered now for 3 pages.
Yo, Joe!
So let's go back to Sierra Gordo and where the real action's at. And I like it. There's a lot of good stuff in Sierra Gordo. So the Joes now, they found these 2 ravines, which were carved out probably by the trucks, carrying the trees and stuff. So they have these 2 great ravines, and this is a really nice way to showcase some of the some of the natures of the toys. Remember, we were talking about the missile rack that expands up top on the Raider, and then on the Razorback, that bubble pops up too as well. So perfect. You get these 2 toys together. How do we showcase that? You put them both in ravines where they can't see each other at their normal size, but if they pop up those things, they can actually reach each other with their weapons. So now it's like a one-on-one chase through these ravines. It's pretty great.
Yo, Joe!
And the Joes are almost out of firepower. So as far as they're concerned, they're actually out of most of the firepower, except for those 2 missiles, which we don't know about as readers. And we see Darklon is kind of navigating it, and he's kind of orchestrating this ruse. So he thinks the Joes think they're safe because the ravine. The Joes not realizing that they got those bubble pods on the Razorbacks that can raise up the ball turrets rather. And sure enough, that's what Stretcher points out, that they're, quote, they're rising, and sure enough, they do. So what's great is this is a pickup moment of picture camera shot. So it's Darklon at the upper hand, telling him what to do. We get this look of surprise on Stretcher's face of like, we're screwed. And then we see the actual ball turrets rising, and then you cut to your guy, your hot shot or hot seat. So like you do that. You cut to the hero, and you go, you show that he's sweating it or he's not sweating it or whatever. He's got his ace in the hole. Or he's talking about Darklon having an ace in the hole. Then you will always cut to the bad guy, the guy who's, I have the leader. Like that guy. That moment in Star Wars when Vader's like, I have the leader. That's the kind of editing that we're talking about here, that Mark Bright's doing on this page, that Lucas did in that movie. They cut to the guy who thinks he's gonna win, and we think he's gonna win in the moment, which is Darth Vader. In this case, it's the pilot of the Razorback, and he says the gunner rather. He says they're just sitting ducks.
Yo, Joe!
And then here comes Hot Seat's pair of aces, and now we see that this toy has this crazy, it's crazy when you see it, and use pop-up canopy of missiles that just shoots up high up in the air, and he does have 2 missiles left. So yeah, they're out of ammo for the rest of the guns, but these 2 missiles are enough to take out these Razorbacks, and they just go to town on them. And it's great, and it wins them enough time. So this is very trench runny. This is very much like the Star Wars trench run, which is fun. Probably not intentional, to be honest, but it's fun. And so that buys the Joes enough time, at least until Darklon's Destro's his other vehicle pulls up.
Yo, Joe!
But that gets whacked in the back with these great Mark Bright explosions. And it's because the Tucaros showed up in their vehicle. Now, this is the panel I'm talking about, where I wanted to see the Tucaros in that vehicle with like the shape charge, having blown through the bubble, or what I mean? The use of that charge. And we never really get that. We don't really get a lot of follow-up with the Tucaros. The Joes drive off together, like Annabelle. We don't get like a final salute or anything. But the Joes and the October Guard and everybody, so they're making their way out, and everybody's smile. So it's a really nice, fun resolution, and it is very trench. If you think about it, it's very trench runny, with Darklon's final thing kind of being Darth Vader's thing of swooping in at the end, and then it gets hit by the Millennium Falcon. And in this case, Annabelle and Zucaros are in the Millennium Falcon.
Yo, Joe!
And really, those two missiles are, Luke shooting in the, or no, the Falcon shows up first, then Luke shoots the missile. So yeah, that doesn't really work. But now we're back in Barovia at the Gulag, and we see this horrified soldiers because Snake Eyes is there, and he is on a mission. It's a great drawing of Snake Eyes, and he is just, he's just going to town. They say that is no man, that is an avenging angel, an unkillable wraith, slaying all in his path, and he is, he's going ham on these guys.
Yo, Joe!
They get him in the spotlight, and what does he do? He just hits the dirt and shoots the guys with the spotlight. He is an unstoppable killing machine in this, and that is not, it's great. It's great. And this is the kind of narrative captioning that you do need in a Snake Eyes adventure. When it's just, you have some outsider telling someone else, relaying what's happening. It's good. It's good. I like when they do that more than trying to get inside his head. Except for the part of this, he's not going to stop until we're all dead.
Yo, Joe!
And that is true. They will all be dead first. So Orlovsky and the White Clown are watching. And the White Clown's very bloodthirsty. He's real happy about this. And I like this this relationship that Larry built with these two. Of, it's even throwing in morals of saying, yeah, we love Snake, and that's what he's doing. He's saying, yeah, Snake Eyes is great, and we love Snake Eyes, and we're always going to root for him. But being an unstoppable killing machine isn't always the best. It's not anything we should revel in. He's there for a good mission, and that's great. But at the same time, we can't lose sight of our morals, right?
Yo, Joe!
So now a helicopter is coming into land, and in the helicopter is that guy Metz from the previous issue, and he's the leader of the popular uprising, which I think is the opposition, I think. So they're like, he's here to help liberate the Gulag, but he's not, and we know he's not because the last issue they had a meetup with Major Blood, and he shows up here in this helicopter, and he basically says, Metz is like, you understand, I don't want him, talking about Snake Eyes, killed for personal reasons. He says, this is for the good of our people. And you did say that Snake Eyes was an American renegade with a price on his head, and now we get this reveal of Major Blood in the backseat. We had a reveal of Major Blood in the previous issue. I wish we hadn't had that reveal of Major Blood in the previous issue. I wish the assassin in the previous issue, because the jugglers talked about that they hired an assassin, and it was a quasi reveal that it was Major Blood in it. They essentially are revealing it again in this issue, and that feels like you had your one shot at it last issue. It doesn't have. It's now not a reveal. You've done a second reveal here, and yes, everyone's first comic is the first comic, and so if you're going to do it, and he's not really going to be a part of the lead, it's a great way to reintroduce him. But we didn't get it last. I wish he had stayed in the dark last issue, so that it would have been an actual secret for us. It would have been like, who did they hire? Did they hire Zartan? Did they hire Firefly? What is going on? And then it could have been, boom, here you go, Major Blood. But having said that, it's a great way to end this. And it says, next issue, I lift my lamp, and then you get in the letters page, you get a preview of the next issue's cover, and it's sure enough, it's Major Blood with a sniper scope trained on Snake Eyes. So that's really exciting. Postbox to the pit, we got some letters. This is a great one. It's from a grandmother who has a 5-year-old granddaughter named Brandy, and the 5-year-old Brandy loves G.I. Joe and Cobra. So the grandmother is writing, and she is Mrs. Emmett Nelson from St. Louis Park, Minnesota. Is she still with us? Is Grandma Nelson still with us? Is Brandy Nelson still into G.I. Joe? Are you out there? Let's find out. Pretty great. Roy W. Hess from Buckhannon, West Virginia. It's not Buchanan. It looks like it's Buckhannon, West Virginia. He writes in. Matthew Drager from Toronto, Ontario writes in, talking about wisecracking ninjas, and he's actually asking about the graphic novel, and they talk about that it was rolled into the Snake Eyes 3-parter Snake Eyes trilogy recently. And finally, we end it with Rod Batich from Australia. And it's funny, Rob is asking, he's having some trouble in Australia getting a hold of some characters. He's trying to get Flint, Dusty, and Bazooka. And he says, they don't have them over here. I'll even settle for Tiger Force. Well, Tiger Force is pretty great. And I think Tiger Force is the one that's hard to get. So I wonder if someone settled for Tiger Force then And then now Tiger Force is, of course, legendary. So that's it for G.I. Joe 105. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate you. I enjoyed it. It's a good fun issue. Those timing beats are just a little off, and I feel like, like in a perfect world where you can do over, I would pull some of that stuff back. I would work that satchel charge bit a little harder, and I would go back into 104 and I would remove any mention of the actual identity of the assassin and just leave Major Blood as the reveal in this issue. I think that would have hit really, really hard. But, them's the breaks, baby. Still a great issue of G.I. Joe 105. Thank you all so much for listening. I appreciate you, all the new listeners, all the old listeners, and all the listeners we have not yet met. Now you, Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.